Okay, so hello, I'm Greater Nemo, and this is a breakdown of my KOOPARENA stage designs, how they put together, how they work, how they can be replicated, why I made some of the decisions that I made, and how you can help that work for you in your own attempts at making automated stages, because I think it's something that's really cool and I would love to see more of them. So nice. So the original KOOPARENA stage is set in one large castle area. You can see this enormous death map. The giant mushrooms were sort of an accidental stylistic decision. I was filling in the background of the parts around the arena and in the arena, and I had a mushroom that stretched the length of the screen, and I just sort of moved it over to that open space near spawn, and then I started the level, and I thought, oh, this looks really cool, this giant mushroom stalk right here. And so I built more of them. And so you can see on there that there are a couple power-ups sort of floating around there for anyone intrepid enough to go look for them. So the original, I did it in one stage, just like one wide swath. It had to be wide enough to accommodate everything, which really everything fits in basically a screen's width. I mean, really everything has to fit within a screen's width for the whole mechanism to operate the way that it's supposed to. Something that I've seen done a little bit in other people's stages, and something that you may have noticed, is that if you're right off screen, things like bullet bill shooters won't launch at you. And understandably, you know, if the arena space is half a screen wide and you have to stand flush up against one side to avoid the shooters on one side, you're going to be standing right next to the shooters on your side. And since there's that space there, you won't be sitting right next to them, so you presumably be shot by something. So as you can see right now, let's see, I uploaded this September 21st, it's 2 days ago at 2:11 a.m. It has 9 clears out of 194 attempts. It's totally the kind of stage that you get in really quickly. If you fail it, you're either going to be discouraged immediately, you're going to be discouraged within a couple attempts because you feel like you're not getting anywhere, but anyone with, I don't want to say anyone with the right skill level because it's really vague. Anyone who's going to be into something like this is going to click with it immediately, I think. It's a very particular sort of course. And all the mechanism aside, like, it's a very specific, a very curated experience in a very small space. So it looks like we got more plays. Let's see if he beat it. Nope. Not that time. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it up and go through it, and then I'll pull it up in the course editor and give a clearer look at it. I'm going to try to make covering the original a little more brief, because a lot of those sorts of things in there have been revised in the second. It'll stay down there. I put a block on the end so it wouldn't run off screen, just in case. Alright, so you fall in and it immediately starts. You've got power-ups coming from either side. You have a few seconds to repair yourself. I try to leave myself a fire flower on the side like that, because apparently that's something that you can do. Up there, that brick that I just broke was the emergency Starman safety cover. In that note block up there, there is a Starman. You only get one, and careful about how you use it. Welp. Friggin' cheaps. Hell. Oh, yes, Goomba Shoe, another one. Forgot I put a lot of these in here. I like Goomba Shoes, and I like bullet bill shooters that shoot out beetle helmets. I think they're very interesting because they're a power-up that you have to win. It's not just something that you have to, be there in the right place at the right time to pick it up. Like, you really have to work for it. God, that's actually one of my favorite pieces of weird behavior, is when they started, when the Beatles started picking up the Hammer Brothers. Okay, so I finished the last wave. You can see the wave counter is all the way up, and so now I'm just waiting for the POW block to come down, and then I can leave this room, because the POW block will kill the munchers. Get in there. This is Chain Chomp, whatever. Okay, so now that we've finished that one, here's the second one, KOOPARENA 2 in Yoshi We Trust, which has 1 clear out of 26 attempts. Which is pretty good, I think, considering that this one almost feels a little bit harder than the first one, but I tried really hard to sort of manage the difficulty in that. This one's been out for all of a day now, almost. This one's a little more straightforward. Also, I designed this super legit pipe lattice, which I think is really cool and literally took me hours to put together. And in the process, I'll do this. which I think is cool as hell. So in this, you get your Yoshi straight away. In this one, there is a beetle launcher that just sits in the room with you all the time. There is also a big Boo, which you have no way to kill, except with your one Starman, which is over there on the wall. Your little supply cache hidden in the difficulty meter. Oh, Yoshi, please. You're killing me. Oh. But yeah, it's really cool to be able to have, you know, pretty much like an unlimited supply of beetle hats. But at the same time, the fact that I left it in here makes it so that they're always flying around. And it's very easy to get picked up by them and things like that. These bombs, though. Seriously, this is where one of those moments where I'd be like, who made this? And then I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, there's the P block. I keep I get so caught up in just kind of keeping it together through the stage that I tend to lose track of the P blocks, especially since I lengthened the timer between each one spawning. Yeah, get over there. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a shame. Yoshi, no. Oh, Lord. Give me one of those hammers. Oh, no. Oh, and Boo blocking my shots. I didn't intend for that to be why Boo was there. And when I made the Boo big, that wasn't why I intended for him to be big. For it to be big, I guess. It just all kind of came together in this very frustrating and sort of devious kind of way. Yeah, get out of there. But you know what? Give me a dry bones. Those are useful. One thing that I figured out, another one of the differences between Mario Maker and Super Mario World proper, is that Yoshi will no longer swallow things. So, like, you don't have to worry about losing some critical stage completion component. Pearl. Oh no. No, I need that. Okay. I can do this. Probably. Man. Another thing that I figured out is immune to the stomp from Sledge Brothers. Yeah, get wrecked. How did those do? Oh, they jumped down. Yeah, right. Yes, give me that. Alright. Ugh. Awesome. And I improved this completion mechanism, so it falls down as soon as you hit the switch block at the very end. Yoshi, let's get out of here, dude. Yoshi, I'm not leaving without you. Oh my god. Get out of here. Goodbye forever. I shortened the timer down a little bit just to sort of add some tension to the whole experience. But, I mean, really, if you're paying attention, it shouldn't put you in a bind in any real way. Okay, so let's go into Course Maker. load these guys up and talk about what they're doing, how they work, what makes them tick. Alright. KOOPARENA, the first one. Oh. Okay. So, yeah, this is it. There's no sublevel. Oh no, there isn't. I totally forgot. Yeah, there's that weird little boo house. I'll show you that later. Okay, so you start out, it's fairly innocuous. I've got 5 coins to signify the 5 waves that you're gonna have to fight. You've got your little power-ups up here. That's really it. It's very self-contained. There's nothing hidden, really. There are no tricks. Okay, so this door drops you right here on top of the P-switch, which causes you to trigger it instantly. There's nowhere around it. Every time you go in, you're going to emerge from the door on top of that P-switch and it will be hit. You will then also trigger the boss fight music on the muncher covering the door. So this is your exit door. I went for you know, bits of decorative flair in this one. I wanted some kind of visual keys that would stand out from the rest of the background and stuff. So I have actually a difficulty meter on either side, which also doubles as a round counter. So if you have the presence of mind to look, each round one of these cannons will fall down, and so you can just look at how many cannons are stacked right here. Is the star block right there. Over here I have winged Koopa Troopa and a fire piranha plant as a shorthand for the shooter with feathers in it and the shooter with flowers in it. Yeah, so you can see this one's kind of smaller, but I've never really felt like it was cramped. I tried to make the decorations very sparse. I tried to leave a lot of the background open so that the room felt larger than it actually is, and I think it turned out really well. I've got the donut blocks in the center, which keep you from being able to stand there for too long. And the center is going to be the most defensible position from either side, and it's also going to keep you up out of the way of flying turtle shells and beetle shells and things. But yeah, your donut blocks are there. And then if your donut blocks fall, then when the P-switch falls, you run the risk of it falling down to the bottom and having to chase after it, which has happened and can be a mess. I have these one-way walls over here on the sides, so there's no escape through the sides. I have the channel set back from the one-way walls actually by 1 block, because if a bullet bill is overlapping that, it won't fire. If a bill shooter is overlapping it, it won't fire. So I had to set them back from it. This block, when triggered, uncovers the feather shooter, and this one uncovers the flower one. So you hit the P-switch, both of those are open. That's your intermission between rounds. You have power-ups coming out of you, no mobs are spawning. These 2 blocks, here and here, both turn into coins, and all the shooters, you know, drain out of the level effectively. So up here is where the magic happens. This is relatively simple in the way that it's put together. So these are all just red conveyors set with 1 block gaps on either end so that the P-switch can, go through the track. And then I have these sideways moving platforms moving in a way so that they'll catch and hold the the P-switch as it's pushed down, and so it just sort of lengthens the timer a little bit. And you can see I've got all of the moving platforms set, more or less a set distance from each other in relation to the ends of the conveyors that they're set to, and I've got them all pointing in the same direction, so whenever they go, they'll all go at once. They'll all move in unison, which is incredibly useful. So let me actually, I don't want to break it again. Let me pull out a couple blocks here so I can stand up here and show exactly how it works from up top. Actually, let me get this one because it doesn't have a sound on it. Alright, so these walls are facing out up against the wall of shooters to keep them from firing. These things should not fire anything until they get down to you, optimally. Sometimes you get some stragglers on the tail end, but even then it's few and far between. So this whole setup and the way that these funnel down works on an interesting property of the coin blocks, which is that if they turn from coins into blocks, anything that is still inside them will be pushed out to the sides or out the bottom. If it's not pushed to the sides, it's still affected by gravity, and so it'll just sort of fall out from under it, more or less ignoring the block itself. And then the next thing will fall down and they'll sit on top of the blocks. Everything will be solid. Everything will make sense. Yeah, so each round, when the P-switch is hit, you turn these into bricks, these turn into coins, and it just sets these right on top. And so that's your gate, basically. Because when they flip back, these will fall through and these will sit on top. The same thing goes with these, except actually I probably could have done these exactly the same way. Huh. So the cannons on the sides actually use a very similar mechanism of action, except that they each have coins under them, so it's that same thing, just sort of stacked on top of each other. Like the one at the top does not have a coin. Oh no, it does have a coin behind it. And then same on the other side. So yeah, so I'm gonna hit this and give you a look at how it works from up here.
Let's go.
Welp. Okay. Do over. So everything's sitting there, everything's perfectly content. The P-switch bricks right there, they need a solid wall next to them. It just was not working with the trying to use just a one-way wall on that side. And so the basically one of them will fall through those two bricks, and then it'll get caught. The next one will be pushed onto the top of the bricks, and so on and so on. Oh, I'm standing on top of this box now, so I'm kind of stuck here. But you can see everything sorts down, and then this is our timer. The round is as long as it takes for that P-switch to get down to the bottom. And you can see the very deliberate placement of the sideways platforms is there to try to prolong your playtime. And you can see the those guys are also funneling down one by one. And now there's like a stack of P blocks down there. Okay. So yeah, so that's the first KOOPARENA stage. You know, whenever it's done, the POW block falls down, you hit the POW block, it blows up the munchers, and you're able to leave. And that's really as simple as the exit trigger mechanism is. That's all you have to do. All you need is munchers blocking your exit and a POW block to clear them. You control how long it takes for the POW block to get to the player, and then sort of build the experience on top of that, or in between those two things. And then over here, you know, you just come out here on the other side. Big wing chain chomp just standing right here, but you can jump onto the box, you can climb over and just go through here pretty safely. There's like a 1-up in there, I think. Yeah. And then in here, get in there. And then in here, you just sort of end up in this creepy ghost house. I wonder if that Boo knew that that 1-up was there. Okay, so that's the first. Moving on to the second. Okay, so this stage is 2 screens long. That's it. The screen that you start on, and the screen with the arena on it. So you start here amid this surreal pipe lattice with these things dropping into the pit and these fires blasting up top. And then I'd already decided to name the stage In Yoshi We Trust. And then I was like, what am I going to do with this big open space? And so it totally became the Eye of Providence. This is the most Illuminati course that I've ever made. So it's pretty straightforward. From here, there's that weirdo pipe overlap, which I didn't know worked until I was messing with it last night. And so you can just go in through there. Yoshi pops out. Boo is over here just kind of chilling, waiting for you. You've got the munchers covering your exit pipe here. So I was able to do that without... It's difficult to figure out how to place an exit that's obscured in a way that is both deadly to the player and totally out of their way. Like, you should never run into those munchers. I've done it a couple times, but it's something that should not happen, generally speaking. I went through multiple variations of this little corner down here before I settled on that, and I've got 2 cloud blocks right there that they're sitting on top of, because it's an easy way to create a pass-through floor, and POW blocks will only kill enemies that are sitting on a flat surface. So if you stack munchers up on top of each other, the top ones will not die. It just takes a layer out of the bottom. And I had to learn that through playtesting on the first one. So this one, you've got these note blocks or music blocks. Whatever they are. I can't remember which is which anymore. Since I'm using this side for the exit, I just consolidated the power-up delivery to this one side. So this has the flowers and the feathers in it. And then I have the beetle shooter here out in the open, like I already explained, because I felt like its constant presence and the fact that it comes out moving, you have to catch it as it bounces around. It creates a very risk-reward sort of proposition. Like, it's good to have one bouncing around because it takes out a lot of mobs on the bottom, but it can also pop up underneath you if you're standing here on the sides, and it can carry you and move you around. And it can do the same thing with enemies. If it comes up underneath them, it won't kill them, it will pick them up and carry them, the same as it will you. So I knew I wanted to go Super Mario World with this one because I wanted to... Oh, thank you, Julio. I wanted to do something with Yoshi, the same way that the last one had kind of a really heavy reliance on the Goomba shoe. And I knew that if I enclosed the entire thing, you'd only need one Yoshi, because Yoshi can't die. And if you can't lose him, then you just have to catch him. And that in itself is problematic. Chasing beetle helmets and your Yoshi and trying to catch both of them from the top and the bottom of your sprite requires a lot of blind luck and careful jump placement in a lot of cases. And so I felt like as sort of chaotic as the whole experience is, really balanced out well, that you had this indestructible friend that works as a reusable mushroom and can outright eat some enemies and can eat projectiles out of the air and spit them back at people. But he can't eat Boo. You can't do anything to Boo. You can't interact with Boo in any way with anything on the stage except that Starman up in the corner, which is your, I'm officially referring to it as the get out of jail free card. The last one, there was a block. To hit the block and it has to come down, but because of the placement of that block, sometimes you'll hit the note block and the Starman will come out clipping with something and will just pop. It just kind of self-destructs and it's gone. And that's no bueno. This one, it's sitting there. You can see it the entire time, and you're not going to have it until you want it. And so to get it, you have to jump and grab it with Yoshi's tongue at the right time, and then spit it out, because Yoshi eating power-ups doesn't consume them anymore. Like, he picks them up the same as he would a shell now. You have to spit it out, and then you have to chase after it. So you gotta account for that a little bit as you're playing, but otherwise, I think even giving the player a handful of stuff right here, their own little item cache, balances itself out. So whenever you come into the room, you fall through right here. This is your delivery chute, basically. You've got another little one-way floor right here, which you can see plainly, and I honestly don't like the way that looks, but I sort of abide by it because I need the functionality. In the first Kooparena, you may have noticed the one visible one-way door, or one-way wall, which is just beneath the door that you start from, is actually entirely concealed by the door. Like, doors are apparently perfect for that. They're one of the few things that actually do overlap those things, like ground blocks and pipes. So, got all that. We got a bunch of pass-through platforms. I use a lot of pass-through platforms because it gives the player room to move, and it creates a lot of potential for chaotic interactions as things sort of come up from underneath you and bounce around. So we have the exact same setup right here for our mob dispensation, except we're only doing it from one side. And so, since I had the beetle launcher in there with you, you have beetle hats at all times. I was able to branch out in what I did with the enemies. So instead of constantly trying to feed the player power-ups like Goomba shoes and beetles and stuff, like, they're already in there. You have your Yoshi, you've got beetle hats forever. So I'm like, what can I do to make the player use what they've got in different ways? And so the first wave is shooting Galoombas at you, winged Galoombas, hard from across the top. They're a nuisance. Winged Galoombas, particularly because they jump really high, they can get into a lot of weird places, and Galoombas in particular are incredibly obnoxious because you can't kill them by jumping on them. The same as a Koopa. You jump on them and then you have to kick them into things like other Galoombas. And so they're useful for, basically like being Koopa shells that just kind of stop moving. They don't just bounce around forever. Right there, I've got the little fire traps, and the fire traps sit right there. If you can get a good angle on it, you can just shoot it out with fireballs. It's not even a thing. You can try to throw a shell at it or something. It's not that big a deal, but I wanted to have the fire trap in there because it will shoot at you wherever you are. Like, I really like having that kind of stationary turret sort of mob that's going to try to range you out as you're trying to avoid everything else. And I also like, which I didn't know until I was playtesting this last night, I also really like that you can eat its fireballs. If you eat a fireball from a fire trap, you will spit a fireball. And then if you eat the fire trap, you'll spit 3. Like a red shell in the original Mario World. And then the bottom here, what is in there? Show me. Yeah, giant flying Galoombas, because you can't pick them up. and Yoshi can't eat them. So you're just sort of forced to run into them repeatedly and pray that they bounce into each other or that your beetles hit them or something. They're clutter enemies is what they are. And I really like them for that. They're not super threatening, but it's going to feel like they're all over and like you can't kill them except by shooting them with a fire flower. But to do that, you have to be off Yoshi. So, even the things that have very simple ways to deal with them are going to force the player to strategize what they're doing with the numerous options that I've provided. And at the same time, it's going to set up situations where the player will always have an out, regardless of what they have. They just may have to approach the situation differently. Like, if your Yoshi's running wild and you have a fire flower, you can just spam fireballs across the stage. And as long as you avoid Boo, you can get some pretty good coverage putting away the fire traps and the Galoombas, and then if you have a cape, you can just swat them around like crazy. So, the next wave, you've got an enemy that will home in on you that you can kill by jumping on it, and you can kill by swatting it and with fireballs, but they can pass through terrain and hunt you. That's why I like bloopers in here. Because you can't eat them, you can't pick them up, and they explode. They're like the giant Galoombas, basically, except they blow up after you jump on them. And you can also shoot them with fireballs, which I like. And jumping Wigglers, which you cannot do anything to with fireballs. You can kill them in one shot by swatting them with a cape. You can eat them with Yoshi, but if you have a fire flower, then your only recourse to try to kill one of these is to try to kick a bomb or beetle shell at it. So you still have that out, even though it's going to be more difficult for you that way. Spinies are vulnerable to fireballs from top, but swatting them with the cape won't kill them. It'll flip them over, and then you can pick them up and kick them like shells. You also can jump on them with Yoshi, I think, if I remember right, like a Goomba shoe. But you can't... But you can't kill them by jumping on them. You can't even knock them into their shells by jumping on them. You have to have a very particular angle of approach to deal with them that way. Come here, Spiny. Can I jump on you? Yeah, and you just hop. See? So you can't kill them that way, but you can pick them up and spit them out. The whole thing is really messy. The Spinies are really slow. They'll bounce off the note blocks. They're a general nuisance down low, and I try to clutter the bottom and create ways for the enemies to come up to the player, and then I put the power-ups, I put the rewards at the bottom, in the most dangerous place. So we've got Spinies there, we've got more fire plants, and we've got Hammer Brothers. I put them up top because I don't want them being picked up by the beetle shells, but sometimes they'll still jump around. And at the top right there, they have a really good angle to arc hammers across, right about the center of the arena. So they're going to zone you out really hard. So you're going to have something. You're going to have to eat some fireballs, you're going to have to pick up a spiny, you're going to have to throw fireballs at them or something. But they're going to be incredibly hard to get close to, and the longer you go without dealing with them, the more will be standing right there on top of each other, and the more difficult it's going to be to deal with them. Dry bones I put on top again as sort of a stationary turret sort of enemy, because they'll throw bones at you, and you can eat them and spit out a wave of bones. But they platform where they come right out. Chain chomps, you can ride on their heads while you're on Yoshi. You can swat them to death. They're a lot like wigglers, except you'll hop on wigglers, and you won't hop on chain chomps. You'll just sort of ride their head as Yoshi. And you can't do anything to them with fireballs, so they're big bombs to interact in the same way. And then the last room, you have giant, you have the Sledge Brothers, you have the giant fire plant, and you have just winged Galoombas hard and fast across the top to try to get all up in your comfort zone. So yeah, the enemy placement is pretty straightforward. This just has coins in it for no real reason. So when you enter the room, instead of emerging and immediately being on top of a P-switch, when you enter the room, this bill launcher drops onto the first P-switch. So it's totally out of your control. When you come in here, it's happening. Like, just try to mentally prepare yourself. So right here, I have the same sort of little delivery system, but at the top of this one I have the POW block that you get, and so having it up here means that you get it as soon as you hit the P-switch to end the last wave. It's like at the end of Guts, when you get to the top of the aggro crag and you slam down on that buzzer and like confetti and tinsel and crap goes everywhere. That's pretty much exactly what it's like. And the reason this works, the reason the POW blocks work, the reason that the munchers work in this cramped space with this constant direct overlap with coins, you know, sort of pushing them, is because they can't be killed. For a while I was playtesting, I had Yoshi in here. You didn't actually get Yoshi until you started the third wave. Yep. You can get Yoshi until you were at the third wave. And I thought, no, I want to give the Yoshi to the player immediately because I want to design the whole thing around you having Yoshi. And so I was going through the different themes, and I went to Mario 3, and so it turned into a Goomba shoe. And, you know, the whole thing starts, and it just pops the Goomba. Like, the Goomba's gone. Because the brick that it was, the coin that it was standing on turned into a brick. It just crushed it. So this works with POW blocks, this works with Yoshi eggs, this works with munchers, it works with, what else does it work with? It doesn't work with beetle hats because they can be killed. It works with cannons, and that's about it for, you know, things that are just like one block. Oh, and it works with trampolines. So yeah, so this works the same way as the round counter, basically. Then you have the revised P-switch gauntlet, which I'm actually really happy with, and this is absolutely an improvement on the original design, which is what I was going for. So on this track, you'll see it weaves down and goes in the opposite direction of the flow of the P blocks, or of the P switches. There are 36 links in this track. There are 4 groups of 7 blocks and 2 spaces. So 7 blocks, 2 spaces, blocks, spaces, block, spaces. So everything is equidistant. I had curves in here for a while, but I took them out and I realized that if I just used right angles, then I could maintain a constant distance. Why is that one turned? I wonder if that's in the published version. It might well be, actually. That might explain some things. So, yeah, so when you hit this, they're all going to stay in equal distance from each other. And I put wings on them so that they'll move faster. Hard blocks I used very specifically because it was a kind of block that, despite the fact that all of this is hidden away from the player, it's a block that isn't going to be easily broken by anything, and you can't hit it. Like, you can't consume it without like a spiny hat or something very specific. Because I had question blocks on here originally, and I was playtesting it, and I jumped up and I hit one, and an empty question block moves slower. It may have been that I knocked the wings off of it, I'm not sure. But the specific blocks here were deliberate. I have this set so that the P-switch happens to be here, but nothing on the track interacts with it. Like, the way that tracks work, from my experience so far, is that they're on like a separate tile layer that's over everything else, except this P block, somehow. And so they will pass through most things sideways without any issues, and they can pass, you know, up and down, side to side through things, but as they are blocks, if something tries to stand on them, you can stand on them until you run into like another solid object. So the way this works, and the way this functionally lengthens my clock and actually steadies my clock, is by catching the P-switches as they're descending and just dropping it from block to block, because it won't depress the switch, it won't trigger it. It'll just push it up into the ceiling and then drop it down to the next block until the last block passes, and then that 2-block gap, it will fall down and scroll down the conveyor as the next line of blocks waves past, and then when it gets to the end of the conveyor, it'll be there just in time to be caught and delayed by the next line of blocks. So at each one of these ends, you know, usually here, but definitely here, 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 and here, there's a really high degree of internal consistency because there's a standard length to everything. And so once the P-switch gets caught on the top of one of the blocks in one of these lines, it's going to be stuck there until it gets to the end, and then that's going to set the timing for all the rest of its movement. And so regardless of when you hit the P-switch, the amount of time that you have until you get the next one is going to be very, very consistent, down to the difference between whether it landed on this block or this block, really, which is, you know, a matter of seconds tops. So I'm just going to start it here. I don't have to put myself on a switch because I have the auto switch right there, and so you guys can watch the mechanism go. And yeah.
Let's go.
So just sit there, and then whenever it kicks back on, just carry it down. There it goes. It's caught on the first line. It goes down. It's going to meet the top of the next one. Falls down to meet the next one. And so the round started at 300 seconds, and you get the P-switch at about 265. So that's a 35-second round, which seems like it can go longer or shorter. Some of them just seem really short, and I know that's because I get caught in playing it. But no, especially compared to the first one where there were smaller tracks and the timer delay system wasn't as sophisticated as this. I think that's a really nice place for the duration of each round, considering for this whole setup, I think. So yeah, so these are dropping down, these are funneling down as they should, like they do. I took out the block means that I can't have giant enemies come out because they'll clip with this block. Yeah, and I think the ghost house theme turned out really well. I've been visually distinct for the area, which is just spoopy enough for you. And that's it. That's my stage. And that's how the mechanism works. And it took me days to get it cleaned up to this point, but this is really something that you can replicate block for block. And I have it set on a single screen like this so that I can control how far the screen pans so that you so that's it. I hope it was very enlightening, and I hope this helps things are possible, like complex mechanisms in Super Mario Maker. The kind of things that we can do are not strictly limited to, you know, very specifically timed, you know, don't touch the controller stages. Like, you can box your player in, and you can control the experience that you provide them, because you have binary switches like that. That's what your P switches are. You've got your bricks that you can flip on and off. You've got your conveyors that you can flip on and off. You can put things on tracks. You can make things clip through other things. You can abuse the system in so many ways with all these fine details of item and mob behavior that allow you to do so. Like, I really want, this is the kind of thing that I want to see from more people. So there you go. If you have any questions, you can feel free again.